The Oscars red carpet is supposed to be all about glamour, luxury, and unforgettable fashion, but sometimes things go very wrong. And honestly, those are the moments we end up remembering the most. From outfits that were way too experimental to looks that just didn't belong on Hollywood's biggest night, these celebrities took risks that completely missed the mark. So if you thought all Oscar fashion was iconic, think again. Today we're diving into the 15 worst Oscar looks of all time. And trust me, some of these are truly shocking. Gwyneth Paltrow, 2002. This look didn't just miss the mark, it completely lost the plot. When Gwyneth Paltrow stepped onto the Oscars red carpet in 2002, it felt less like a fashion moment and more like a risky experiment that didn't land. She wore a sheer lace-up Alexander McQueen gown where the completely see-through bodice instantly grabbed attention for all the wrong reasons, especially with no bra underneath. Instead of looking edgy and cool, it came off awkward and unfinished. The heavy dark eyeliner and that tight milkmaid braid made the whole vibe feel overly harsh rather than high fashion. And then the skirt just made things worse. This bulky, wrinkled taffeta piece that didn't flow or flatter her at all. It honestly looked like two completely different ideas forced into one outfit. Critics didn't hold back then, and even Gwyneth later admitted she would change the styling. Kate Hudson, 2001. This wasn't red carpet glam, this was red carpet confusion. When Kate Hudson arrived at the 2001 Oscars, she didn't just walk the red carpet, she confused it. At just 21, she chose a bohemian, rhinestone-covered Stella McCartney gown that looked more festival than Academy Awards. The silvery lilac dress hugged her body, but that tiny beaded capelet thrown on top made the whole look feel random and overdone. And then there was the open back with fringe, which could have been cool, but just didn't fit the vibe of the night. The curly updo and mini gold purse only added to the chaos instead of balancing it out. At the time, critics were not impressed at all, and she landed straight onto worst-dressed lists. Today, people call it ahead of its time, but back then, it simply looked like a fashion risk that didn't fully come together. Thurman, 2004. When fashion tries too hard to be different, this is what happens. When Thurman stepped onto the 2004 Oscars red carpet, it felt like she walked out of a completely different event, wearing a Christian Lacroix haute couture gown. The look tried to be artistic and unique, but ended up looking confusing. The white tulle skirt was huge and dramatic, paired with gold embroidery that already felt busy. And then out of nowhere came that bold blue satin sash cutting right across the waist. It didn't blend, it distracted. The whole Greek goddess meets milkmaid vibe just didn't translate well on the Oscar stage. Even though she kept her hair and makeup simple, the dress itself was doing way too much. Critics were quick to put this on worst-dressed lists, and honestly, it's easy to see why. Even later admitted it was a fashion misstep, proving that sometimes trying too hard to be different can seriously backfire. Demi Moore, 1989. This wasn't breaking fashion rules, it was ignoring them completely. When Demi Moore showed up at the 1989 Oscars, she didn't just break fashion rules, she completely ignored them. Instead of a classic gown, she wore a self-designed outfit that looked like 3 different ideas thrown together at the last minute. A corset-style top, black biker shorts, and then a random half skirt in metallic brocade sitting awkwardly on one side. Yes, biker shorts at the Oscars. It felt more like a backstage rehearsal look than one of Hollywood's biggest nights. The lace details and velvet textures only made it more confusing instead of cohesive. Critics at the time absolutely destroyed this outfit, even calling it an Oscar fright. And honestly, it's not hard to see why. Today, people say it was ahead of its time, but back then, it just looked like a fashion disaster that didn't belong on that red carpet. Whoopi Goldberg, 1993. Loud, bold, and impossible to ignore, but not in a good way. When Whoopi Goldberg hit the Oscars red carpet in 1993, it felt less like fashion and more like a full-on costume moment. She wore a custom jumpsuit mixed with a skirt and jacket combo that honestly looked like three outfits fighting for attention. The neon lime green and deep purple color clash was impossible to ignore, and not in a good way. The brocade fabric, crystal details, and that dramatic open front skirt just made everything feel loud and overwhelming. And then you noticed the capri-length pants underneath, which made the whole silhouette even more confusing. Even though it was inspired by Lucille Ball, the execution didn't translate to red carpet glam at all. Critics absolutely tore this look apart back then, calling it one of the worst ever. Bold and fearless, yes, but this was a fashion risk that completely missed the mark. Geena Davis, 1992. This looked less like an Oscars gown and more like a costume gone wrong. When Geena Davis arrived at the 1992 Oscars, it honestly looked like she couldn't decide between a costume and a red carpet gown. Instead of going classic, she wore a custom ivory satin mini dress with a dramatic high-low ruffled train that felt straight out of a stage performance, not the Academy Awards. The corset-style bodice was structured, but then you had black tights, black heels, and white opera gloves all thrown into the mix, and nothing really matched the same vibe. It was giving Moulin Rouge energy, but in the most confusing way possible. The short front and oversized train made the silhouette look unbalanced and chaotic on camera. Critics at the time did not hold back, and it quickly landed on worst-dressed lists everywhere. Even though Geena later said she loved it, this look felt more like a theatrical experiment than a successful Oscars outfit. Celine Dion, 1999. She didn't just flip fashion, she literally wore it backwards. When Celine Dion walked into the 1999 Oscars, she didn't just break the rules, she flipped them backwards. Wearing a white John Galliano for Christian Dior suit, she showed up in a tuxedo worn completely backwards, with the plunging neckline running down her back. And while the idea was bold, on the red carpet, it just looked confusing instead of chic. The oversized blazer, loose pants, and that matching white fedora made it feel more like a magician's outfit than an Oscars look. Add those tiny sunglasses, and the whole vibe became even more disconnected from the elegance of the night. At the time, people didn't get it at all, and it landed on plenty of worst-dressed lists. Today it is called iconic and ahead of its time, but back then, it felt like a fashion risk that totally missed the moment. Cindy Crawford, 1991. Today it is iconic, but back then, it shocked everyone. When Cindy Crawford stepped onto the Oscars red carpet in 1991, everyone remembers it as iconic now, but at the time, it was actually pretty shocking. Wearing a bold red Gianni Versace gown, the look was way more daring than what the Oscars usually allowed back then. That plunging neckline, the super high slit, and the open back made it feel almost too sexy for such a formal, traditional event. It didn't blend into the elegance of the night. It completely disrupted it. And because she was not even nominated, critics questioned why the look was trying so hard to steal attention. The minimal styling and big 90s hair kept it simple, but the dress itself was doing a lot. Today it is called legendary, but back then, it definitely pushed boundaries in a way that not everyone appreciated. Kristen wig, 2020. This was couture, but way too much of it. When Kristen Wiig showed up at the 2020 Oscars, it felt like she brought couture but forgot balance. Wearing a bold red Valentino haute couture gown, the look was instantly loud with those massive structured ruffles running down both sides like curtains. The high neckline and wide silhouette made it feel stiff instead of elegant, almost like the dress was wearing her. And then she added long black leather opera gloves, which clashed hard with the romantic red gown instead of elevating it. Even the gold-studded Christian Louboutin heels could not save it. It was dramatic, yes, but in a way that felt over-designed and heavy. Critics were split, but for many, this looked like Couture gone too far rather than a truly flattering Oscars moment. Lizzy Gardner, 1995. This was not just a dress. It was a walking statement that went too far. When Lizzy Gardner walked the Oscars red carpet in 1995, it did not feel like fashion. It felt like a statement that went a little too far. She literally wore a dress made out of 254 American Express gold cards. And yes, real ones. At first glance, it looked shiny and eye-catching, but the more you looked, the more it felt like a gimmick instead of a glamorous outfit. The slip-style shape with that high slit and visible gold underwear just made it even more confusing. It was not elegant, it was not flattering, it was just loud. Even though it was meant to comment on consumerism and Hollywood excess, on the red carpet it came off more tacky than clever. Critics were completely divided, but many placed it straight onto worst-dressed lists. Creative idea, sure, but as an Oscars look, this felt more like a shocking stunt than true fashion. Barbra Streisand, 1969. What looked glamorous at first turned into a major red carpet disaster. When Barbra Streisand showed up at the 1969 Oscars, she thought she was serving bold, youthful glamour, but things went very wrong under those stage lights. Wearing a black sequin pantsuit by Arnold Scassi, the look seemed chic at first with its sparkly finish and dramatic bell-bottoms. But once she stepped under the bright lighting, the fabric turned unexpectedly sheer, revealing way more than intended. What was supposed to be a sophisticated evening pajama moment suddenly became one of the most awkward red carpet surprises ever. The white collar and cuffs added contrast, but could not distract from the transparency issue. To make it worse, she did not even realize it was see-through at the time. Even though she won Best Actress that night, the outfit sparked major controversy. Original, yes, but also one of those fashion risks that accidentally became a disaster. Cher, 1986. This was not an outfit, it was a full-on spectacle. When Cher showed up at the 1986 Oscars, it did not look like she came for awards. It looked like she came for revenge. Wearing a barely there, jewel-covered look by Bob Mackie, she turned the red carpet into her own Vegas stage. The black bra top, ultra low-rise skirt with high slits, and that massive feathered headdress made the whole outfit feel more like a showgirl costume than an Oscars look. And those thigh-high boots just pushed it even further away from anything remotely elegant. It was bold, dramatic, and impossible to ignore, but also completely disconnected from the tone of the event. At the time, critics were shocked and even called it too much, and honestly, they were not wrong. Today it is iconic, but back then, this felt less like fashion and more like a statement that overwhelmed everything else. Gwyneth Paltrow, 2026. The comeback was big, but the look did not quite live up to it. When Gwyneth Paltrow made her big Oscars comeback in 2026 after more than a decade, the expectations were sky high, but the look ended up being more confusing than iconic. She wore a custom Giorgio Armani privé gown that looked sleek and minimal from the front, almost too safe. But then came the twist, those extreme side slits running all the way up, revealing sheer tulle trousers underneath. Instead of feeling innovative, it just felt unnecessary and a bit awkward, like the dress could not decide what it wanted to be. The whole gown over pants idea did not fully translate into elegance on the red carpet, and knowing she had to be literally sewn into it made it feel even more impractical than glamorous. The Tiffany and Co. diamonds were stunning, but even they could not distract from the outfit's identity crisis. Bold concept, yes, but execution-wise, it did not quite hit the Oscars level people were expecting. Bjork, 2001. Finally, the look that didn't just break the internet, it broke the entire idea of Oscar fashion. When Bjork arrived at the 2001 Oscars, she didn't just wear a dress, she created chaos. Designed by Marjan Pajowski, the infamous swan dress looked exactly like what it sounds like. A full-on bird wrapped around her body, with its neck draped around hers and its head sitting on her chest. The white tulle skirt and feathered textures made it feel more like a costume than couture. And just when you thought it couldn't get stranger, she started laying eggs on the red carpet, turning the whole moment into performance art. Inspired or not, it completely clashed with the elegance people expect from the Oscars. Critics at the time absolutely tore it apart, calling it ridiculous and bizarre. Today it is seen as iconic and camp, but back then, it felt like one of the most confusing and over-the-top fashion moments ever. So those were the 15 worst Oscar looks of all time. Chaotic, confusing, and definitely unforgettable. Now I want to know what you think. Which look was the worst of them all? And is there any outfit on this list that you secretly liked? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more celebrity fashion breakdowns, iconic red carpet moments, and rankings just like this. And I will see you in the next video.